In today's episode, Adam asks, how do you get more out of exhibiting at trade shows and conferences? What's something you've done that's worked? Making trade shows work for you typically requires a three-part strategy in order to get the most out of a show. Now, trade shows are costly, right? They are not something you can do to the maximum benefit at anything less than going all in on a show. So, if you have a choice between doing 3 conferences or trade shows, just dipping your toe in the water, or doing one show all in, you will get greater returns typically out of going all in on one show rather than going half-heartedly into 3 or 4 or 5 shows. The 3-part strategy is air cover, ground game, activation. So air cover means awareness, and this is typically done with sponsorship. Lanyard sponsorship, big name on the thing, branded pre-conference emails, seat drops, swag bags, you name it. It is about getting attendees to recognize the name of your company on site. And it is, as it sounds, it is air cover. It is about making sure that people have tangible reminders on a frequent basis that you're there, that you support this event that they've gone to, and that they should want to talk to you, that you're a big deal. Air cover is about creating that impression of you. You're a big deal. Now, you don't necessarily always have to pay, but it sure does help. You can create air cover through things like earned media. You can create air cover through things like digital advertising. You can do location-based in-app advertising, for example. I've done that in the past, and that has worked well, particularly in an event that isn't yours, or that you don't have a full sponsorship for. And again, with influencers, if you can identify the influencers who are at the event and develop meaningful relationships with them and get them to promote you, that can create some air cover. The second thing, of course, is ground game. And this is the physical presence that you have at the show where people who are aware of you can go and engage with you. It is almost always exhibition. It is almost always a booth on site. Where people can go to find out more, to talk to a person. Hopefully, it's somebody who actually works at your company. So none of this brand ambassadorship where you have a salesperson of some kind who is just a contractor who's there basically to only to chat people up, but doesn't actually know anything about your products. That's definitely not the way to go. Typically, and this is especially true in marketing technology, people go to the shows because they're generally good salespeople, but they're not necessarily technical people. So make sure that you have at least one technical person on site, if your product or service is a technical one, that can answer tough questions. So your ground game, the booth, it can be other physical locations, especially if... Again, if a booth is either out of your reach or you don't like the booth atmosphere. So at Social Media Marketing World a couple of years ago, I loaned out part of my hotel room because I was one of the benefits of being a keynote speaker at the event was that you get this like multi-part hotel room that had a nice sitting area and stuff. And so I loaned that out to some friends so they could use it for product demos in a more casual environment, and certainly a quieter environment. Your ground game. And again, this is something that you don't need to buy a booth for, but it sure does help. I have seen it done successfully where people just hang out at a specific table or do breakfast or lunch round tables or do specific sponsored events like a breakfast or a coffee or something. But whatever it is, it just has to be a place where people go. They can physically interact with you. And the third part is activation. This is the tip of the spear, if you will. And this is about creating demand. The third part is generally, ideally, having one or more speakers at the event. Because those are the folks who can get up on stage in front of a crowd, little crowd, big crowd, doesn't matter, and share something of value that proves your company knows what you're talking about and that you have intelligent people working at it. So someone who can get up and show like how to solve the top 5 problems that independent coffee shop owners face, or someone who can show why agencies are still relevant in the age of self-serve digital. Whatever the thing is, you need to have that activation that creates the demand. In terms of which order you do things, you do it from the bottom up. So activation comes first, because you can do okay with a speaker, right? And that speaker could be an employee, and they just get some benefit out of the event. If you pair a speaker with a ground game, then the speaker can say, hey, and be sure to stop by our booth in the exhibit hall and say hi. I'll be there, answering your questions for the next 45 minutes or whatever. But you want that to pair the activation on the ground game. And the third step would be to layer on the air cover. And it gets progressively more expensive each step you go. So speakers, if you've done a really good job building your brand and stuff, you may even get paid to speak at the event, which can save your company a tremendous amount of money. Booths are expensive. Air cover and big sponsorships are really expensive. So if you are on a limited budget, start with the speaking rung, build to your ground game, and then as revenue and business results come in, build that air cover. That said, any one of these individual strategies is weaker than the synergies between 2 or more, and things work best when you have all 3. So if you can only afford to have a speaker, you do what you can, right? That's okay. But if you can have a speaker and a booth, or a speaker and a breakfast, or a speaker and an activation, a ground game activation of some kind, you're going to do better. And if you have the air cover somehow, you could do really, really well. Now, if you're a small to mid-sized business and you just don't have the 50 or 100 grand it's going to take, you can do hack job versions of these. So you have the speaker, that's kind of non-negotiable, but then you can have a sponsored coffee or breakfast, and then you can have an influencer. Maybe it's your speaker. If you're lucky enough to have a good speaker within the roster of your company, you can double up and have the speaker also be an influencer to create the air cover. So you could do that on a smaller budget, but at some point you're going to have to spend some money in order to get the most out of a trade show. So that's sort of the 3-part strategy for making trade shows worthwhile for your company, for your business, for your marketing. The one thing I found that doesn't work, and I've seen this at a bunch of different companies, is just sending someone to a show and having them wander around. I've not seen that be a successful strategy. You have to have something that attracts attention, and unless that person is an influencer of some kind that can, hold court or whatever, paying to have someone just go to a show and wander around has not, in all the companies and all the customers I've worked for, generated as good results as this activation ground game air cover strategy. So would love to hear your thoughts about what's worked for you at trade shows. Please leave your thoughts in the comments, and of course subscribe to the YouTube channel and the newsletter, and I'll talk to you soon. Want help solving your company's data, analytics, and digital marketing problems? Visit trustinsights.ai today and let us know how we can help you.